Hey guys, so I want to take this video to try to talk a little bit about my dad. Um, he passed away about 6 weeks ago now, and I'm kind of struggling with my feelings. Like I don't know how to feel. Like sometimes I'm sad about it, sometimes I'm not sad about it. Like I'm indifferent to it. Like, how do you guys feel about your other parent? Like, you have your narcissistic parent. So, what about the other parent? Were they also a narcissist? Were they enablers? And, like, how did you feel about them? How was your relationship with them? My parents broke up before I was even born. They got back together when I was 22 for a couple of months and broke up and haven't been together since. Although my dad has said that they had relations all throughout me being in high school and into my 20s. So I don't know. I don't care. I didn't really need to hear that, but whatever. He had dementia, so for all I know, it could just not be true. But my whole life, my narcissistic mother has treated him like a dog. And when I was younger, I mirrored my mother. I treated him like crap because dysfunction. That's all we know. So you see how your parent is acting, and that you think that's how you're supposed to act when you're a little kid. She nicknamed my dad Dick Dunce. Do you know how many years I called him Dick Dunce instead of Dad? When I would call and my grandmother would pick up and I would say, "Hey, can I talk to Dick Dunce?" My mom would be in the background giggling. I didn't know what I was saying. My dad and I had a strained, at best, relationship because of how she treated him and how she got me to treat him. But he's also partially to blame. Instead of doing something to change the situation, he just let it happen. He didn't try to fight it. Nothing. He once told me, this isn't exact words because I don't remember exactly how he worded it, but he said this about my mother, that it was better to give in to her, just give her what she wants, so she'll leave you alone. That's kind of something that I lived by without thinking about it. I mean, I've been in no contact with her for almost 6 years. So until 6 years ago, that's what I was doing because I guess giving in to her was easier because she would be nice. If I gave in to her, she would just be nice to me for a little while. But until she wanted something else from me, which would usually be days later, then she would start being vile again. There's only so much you can give. And I'm not talking just financially or stuff-wise. I'm talking about emotionally, mentally. There's only so many hours in the day. If it was up to her, I would have never even slept because I would have been her servant at all hours of the day. My aunt and I were my father's sister. We were even talking about some stuff recently. And she knew that the whole reason why my dad bought me a car when I was 18 was so that he was no longer burdened by my mother by being her personal chauffeur. So then I became her personal chauffeur. So not only did I have to get a job, or well, keep a job so that I can deal with the upkeep of having a vehicle, but also for driving her around because she never gave any gas money. So my whole family on my dad's side knew that the only reason why I got a car was so that he wouldn't have to drive her around anymore. So when people sit there and say, oh, you're so lucky, your dad bought you a car. Yeah, he did, but it came with a huge condition. And that kind of sums up a little bit how my dad and I's relationship was. It felt, instead of having like a mother, or not a mother, I had a father-daughter relationship, it felt more like business partners. Whenever I wanted to spend time with my dad, it was more like he would throw money at me to make me go away. He, I guess in a way, kind of treated me like I was my mother. I mean, yeah, when I was younger, I used to act like her. And he knew that when he gave her money, she'd leave him alone for a little while. But when he gave me money, I mean, I didn't really leave him alone. I mean, I wasn't harassing him. But, you know, I'd still call him and talk to him and stuff. Later on in life, something finally clicked in me, and I realized that how my mom was treating him was wrong. So I apologized to him. But it was too late. My mother had already ruined any chance I had at having a normal father-daughter relationship. She was always brainwashing me on what a terrible person he was, and I realized that what it all came down to was money. He was always such a terrible person to her, but when he gave her money, all of a sudden he was so nice. And in his days later, when she wanted more money, all of a sudden he was horrible again. So in a sense, not only was I kind of robbed from having an actual mother, I was robbed from having a good relationship with my father. It sucks because it's like he's a familiar person, but he was also a stranger at the same time. And I guess it was easier for him to just give in to her than to actually work at trying to have a relationship with me. Maybe taking her to court and saying, hey, she's alienating me from my kid. You know, she's saying bad things about me to her, and this is how she's having my kid treat me. Maybe have a court order saying that, you know, she can't do that stuff. I guess it just hurts because my dad didn't fight to have a relationship with me. He just gave up and laid down. And that's what he did for her. My dad also there was no emotion. Never said he loved me. The only time he said he loved me was when my Uncle George died in 2005. I was 22. Yeah, I was 22. And my Uncle George was like a father to me. He took me to baseball games. He came to all of my school stuff, choir, concerts, plays, anything we did, he was involved in. It's like he was my father, and I loved him to death. But my actual father, he never came to any of that stuff. I had plenty of choir concerts around town and stuff, and he never came to those. The only thing I think he really did was he took me trick-or-treating every year, and then every Christmas, he got me in the morning time until whenever I got home. And so I spent Christmas with his side of the family. The only other time that he said he loved me was when he was dying. He would tell me several times in a single phone call that he loved me. Part of me feels like he was saying that because he was lonely, because he was pretty much dying alone. And the only person he had to talk to was me. well, the only person that he was familiar with, or maybe it was the dementia. So later on in life, after I was an adult, I found out that he didn't really tell people about me. My dad loved fishing. That was his #1 priority in life. There was many years he didn't even work because it cut into his time with fishing. So often I would take the car that he bought me and go out to the lake that he usually fished at, even though he wasn't there. Well, actually, I think one of the times I went there, I saw him there. But I would go park in the parking lot of the, I guess you call it the arena. Or maybe it's the marina. Yeah, I think that's it, marina. Either way, I'd go park my car there because I didn't want to stay in the house with my mother. So I would go park and sleep there for the night, go home in the morning, shower, get ready for work, go to work. And that's when I worked day shift. I spent a lot of my life working night shift, but sometimes I also worked day, and sometimes I worked 2 jobs just to get away from my mother. But anyway, one of the nights I went there actually with my boyfriend because that's what we were going to do. We were going to sleep in my car there because my mother was being crazy. There were these 2 guys there. Older guys, probably about my dad's age at the time. And so we were talking and everything. And I had asked them, hey, do you know Smitty? Which is my dad's nickname. And they said, yeah, we know Smitty. I was like 18, 19 years old at the time. And they said, yeah, he fishes here all the time. That's my dad. They both looked shocked. They said, we've known him for many years. He never once mentioned having a child. How do you know somebody for so long and just casually not mention that you have a kid? And then later on, when I had my daughter, he showed her love. The way he treated her was the way my Uncle George treated me. Like I was the apple of their eye, and my daughter was the apple of my dad's eye. I was so happy for him that he found someone that he could show his emotions to. And I was very happy for I am very happy that my daughter got to experience a different version of him that I did. She got a grandpa who loved her. Because I have to admit, I was afraid that he was going to be unemotional and treat her like he did me. Like, you know, basically I was in the way and throw money at me to make me go away. In a sense, it was, with my dad, for me, it was, he did the bare minimum what he legally had to do. We never went to any baseball games together, or amusement parks, vacation. He literally didn't do that stuff. He took me to the playground a couple of times, took me fishing with him a lot, which I hated, and we played some card games at his house and board games, but that was the extent of it. And it wasn't very often because whenever my dad lost, he was not happy. I've discussed some issues about my dad in other places before, and I had someone tell me that when I say that I love my dad, I think they said it's probably the only reason why I say I love my dad is because I need a parent to love. Like, I already know that my mother is abusive, and that's not going to happen. I don't love my mother. And that if I don't love my dad, then I have nobody to love. Like, in a parental sense, which I see as that as being true. Like I love my dad, but I don't love my dad. I don't love my dad in a way a normal daughter loves her father. It's more of, I loved him for, I guess, taking care of my basic needs. My dad's sister had, even told me, I think I may have mentioned it before, had even told me that, I guess it was, I had bad luck or whatever because I ended up being born to 2 crappy parents. If it wasn't for my Uncle George, I would have never ever known what it was like to have a parental figure love me. Even though he wasn't my parent, he was just another ATM machine for my mom. I think this video is very vital for people who have kids with other people to understand that when you alienate the other parent from your kid, you screw them up mentally. You rob them of having a good relationship with that other parent. It's one thing if that other parent is abusive, but when that other parent kind of wants to be a parent to that child or tries to be, but you try everything you possibly can to ruin that other parent in the eyes of your child, you rob them of that. So it's also made me realize that my decision to allow my narcissistic ex-husband back into my daughter's life about 1.5 years ago. He had talked to me about wanting to try to be a dad again. And I said it was up to her. She was 12. She made the decision. She said she wanted to give him another chance, but it was the last one. And they've been kind of working on the relationship a little bit. He has done some narcissistic things, which I'm probably going to make a video about some other time. But if the other parent is capable of showing love and wanting a relationship with their child, let them, as long as they're not hurting them. My dad wasn't doing anything to hurt me. Not until I was a little older. He was, just kind of ignored me. Like I said, threw money at me to make me go away. Never asked for the money. So now you sit here as an adult. How's your relationship been with your other parent? Like, is it strained because of your other parent being the narcissist? There are some things that come to mind that make me wonder about my dad. Everybody knew my dad is someone that had something going on mentally that made him different. He tried to join the military, and the military said no because of a mental illness. They diagnosed him with some sort of mental illness. And he wouldn't tell anybody what it was. So we never got to know. But there's a lot of different things it could be, but it seems to mirror schizophrenia and maybe Asperger's. Maybe a form of autism. I mean, he's the type that if he puts a cup in the sink, and if it moves, or if you move it a 1/2 inch, he'll go on a tirade for hours about touching a cup. That cup. He moved the cup. But I remember when I was younger, we'd be sitting in the family room at his house, and there would be a car parked outside. And randomly he would just say, "Hey, stay away from the window. We're being watched." He would think that the government was watching. Then there was a couple of times where my mom and I were homeless, and he didn't do nothing. He didn't. I mean, he lived with my grandma, but my grandma probably would have let us stay. Well, not my mom. She would have let me stay. Like, I know you don't want her to come and stay, but I'm your kid. Like, you had a nice 5-story house that you were living in with my grandma. Just the two of you. It would have been nice to not be homeless and just be able to sleep in somewhere familiar instead of wondering where we were going to go. He didn't help me anyway. I was just a kid. Then when my grandma passed away and he got a large inheritance, he directly gave it to me. I didn't ask for it. So it just flip-flops. Like, he cared enough about me to give me all that money, but he didn't care enough about me when I was homeless as a child. He didn't care enough to be involved with my life. Anyway, my daughter just popped up in the room asking me to do face masks with her, so I'm going to go do face masks. Even though it's almost their bedtime, but it's whatever. We could stay up and do face masks. It's cool. I'm just glad I didn't end up like either one of my parents.